Well, good morning, boys. How the
Good.
heck are we doing today?
Oh, good morning. It's a
Great.
wonderful day. In fact, it could be
The
the
best
best
day
day
ever?
ever. Jason, how are you?
I'm great.
Good
Oh,
to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
we're excited to have you here. Jason, we've met a couple of times at Sequel Saturday events. You're a big speaker on the circuit. So I'm excited to have you here to get to talk about one of our favorite topics in the world. But before we dive into that, I want to first say good morning to everyone in the live stream. It's great to see you, Aman, Belinda, Damu, Aaron. I mean, like everybody. It's
Uh-huh.
great to see you showing up in the live stream. Thank you so much. You guys are all what makes Fridays my favorite day.
Yeah.
Chewy's here.
So, it was Chewy's birthday yesterday.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Happy
There you go.
birthday to
Day to
To
you.
you.
you,
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
birthday
to
to
you.
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 Happy
Boy, this is going to
birthday,
get us
dear
banned.
Chewy. Happy birthday to you. Woo!
We're
Oh,
going
and
to,
we got Germany on the line too.
oh, wow.
Wow. Wow. Good to see
Okay.
everyone. Wow, it's
I,
great
I'm
seeing you.
sorry. I don't think I could pronounce that name. So,
Ionis?
oh, very good.
I think
It's
that's
too
just
early for me.
Ionis. Oh.
Nice. Well, welcome, Ionis. Glad to have you. Hope Germany is doing well.
Yes, 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 yes. Good to see everybody today. And Fernando,
Fernando.
nice to see you as well. Jason, now people on the if you go to Sequel Saturdays, you know Jason, you speak at I think on last count we saw that you spoke at 485 Sequel Saturdays this last year alone. Is that number correct?
No, I'm not Kevin Fiesel. I do not hold that record. But yeah, there were at least more than 10 2 years ago. And then this year, I think I'm up to 10 or so. I'd have to look at the count.
Oh, that's great.
Mm,
And then one thing I started doing is I started kind of late doing it, but I started blogging
Hmm.
about each Sequel Saturday on my blog, The Dak Shepherd. And so that way, kind of recounting the sessions I attended, what I presented on, things I noticed. My wife volunteers, so a little bit
Hmm.
about that too, and just what a Sequel Saturday is. And so that's kind of been, I still need to do the one for Oregon, Washington, and even maybe do a recap of past summit. But
Yeah.
that's really made me go back and say, because we were talking earlier about this, that yes, these were worth it. The connections we made, the friends we made. It wasn't just about me presenting a session. If you would take that away, it was still worth to fly there, to stay
Hmm.
there, and attend Sequel Saturday.
Yeah. And I enjoy those blog posts that you started putting out. So I've looked at them. I think it's great. You give a little bit of a, kind of a behind the scenes type of thing, right? And so if others are kind of thinking about being a speaker and seeing the benefits that you get from it, besides what you just kind of put out there, right? It's a good way to kind of look at it. And if you're thinking of trying to be a speaker somewhere, just jump and do it, right? I mean,
Yes.
what was it like the first time that you went to do it? You were probably like me. I was all nervous as all get go and thinking it through and everything. And then the more you do it, obviously the easier it gets, and then, I'm like you, that the benefits that you get out of it, besides just, having that accomplishment of I was able to give a good hour long session, the people that you meet is just amazing. So yeah, thanks for blogging that stuff. That's great. Oh, I see Chris, you put his website
I
out there.
did
Yeah.
share your blog. It is not easy to find it, so the URL is there because apparently there's some guy in Hollywood or an actor of some sorts who apparently his name is Dak Shepard. I don't know,
If only
seems
I
like
would
that
have
would
known that.
what's that?
If only I would have known that.
Yeah, yeah. I prefer yours over some Hollywood guy, but Google doesn't like to bring up yours. So It's good to see, good to share it out. Check out your blog here. That is quite, it's quite beneficial, like you said. And, this is actually an interesting conversation we were having before the live stream started. Is about like how important it is, like this community, the way we relate and connect with each other. Um,
Hmm.
really helps bring out the best in all of us, right? And so that's why we love connecting on Fridays. We love connecting on SQL Saturdays. Kevin, you're speaking tomorrow at SQL Saturday Finland, is it? Or
Finland. Yeah, yeah. I'm on my way to Finland. I'm going to make it just in time. No, Houston. So
Houston.
I get to
Oh,
drive down. For me, it's about a 3 hour drive. So I'll take off early afternoon,
okay.
and then have the speaker dinner tonight, which I'm always looking forward to. And then yes, a session tomorrow and the big day tomorrow. So it's going to be great. I know Chewy's going to be there. A couple other of our SML friends are going to be there, and I'm looking forward to, like we were saying, making new friends. Right? There's a lot of people at this one that I don't think I've met before. So I think it's going to be really interesting to meet some new people and everything. So I'm looking forward to it. Very excited.
Yeah,
Then on to Finland.
Yeah. Jason, if and we didn't ask you about this ahead of time, so I'm coming way out of left field on this one. And I don't know sports metaphors, so I think that's right, but maybe I don't know
No, you're right.
enough
You're
there
good.
either.
You're good.
Okay, all right. Um, if you were going to give a tip to someone going to their first SQL Saturday event or community event, what would that like? What would that tip be?
I would say the main thing is to do all the things. So if it's a SQL Saturday, get there early because it may be the people you meet while getting your coffee that end up becoming lifelong friends.
Mm,
Attend all the sessions, but someone told me about the hallway track. If it turns out if you're having a good conversation with someone out
Hmm.
in the hallway, you're connecting, maybe a way to save your company money, something, then okay, you're in the hallway track, do that. Do the lunch, sit at a different table. If there's an after event that there is at some of the SQL Saturdays, attend that. One of the
Hmm.
biggest things is I volunteered at SQL Saturday Jacksonville the first year, but we really didn't stick around. We kind of went and did our own dinner. And then once I became a speaker, then I was invited to the speaker dinner and staying and actually engaging with everyone doing the after event. That's where you actually meet people and connect with people. Like I said, there's so many people I could name that are now friends because of those connections at SQL Saturday.
Yeah.
And you talked about presenting for the first time. My first session was at SQL Saturday Jacksonville. I had issues with my demo and presenting to the screen. And afterwards, I talked to Belinda for the first time and was like, hey, how do you do your demos? What's this
Hmm.
extra screen you have on your laptop? And that's how I met Belinda. And I'm like, because I had that issue, I now have a friend in the community that I wouldn't have maybe met.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't know that I've ever heard it said that way before, the hallway event, right? There's a lot, and I like that advice because sometimes you're feeling this pressure of, oh, there's a session starting, I need to get into a session. And yes, it's great, support the speakers and everything, but if you're having a great conversation, then be a little bit late, or keep it going, or make a point to get together afterwards. I see the same thing. So many people come and then they go, session to session to session and then leave, and I'm with you. It's the best way is to sit there and make connections, you know, just kind of introduce yourself. Some people are shy, but they're not going to bite. Right. So it's
well,
great
that
advice.
is spot on, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting here listening to you, and Jason, that's some. I too have not heard of the hallway session. I think that's great. But I think one thing you kept, if I were going to focus everything you just said, it's about the people you meet and the people you engage with, right? And you listed off, I think, 10 great ways to engage with people, but that is truly right. It's how do
Mhm.
we connect with people, and maybe we're using technology as the medium in which we have conversations or start off conversations, but it's how we can connect with people, and that's what the greatest tip is I think I've ever heard. So excellent work, Jason. Now you've set a really high bar for the rest of this live stream.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you've done so well on the introduction part,
I will say the hallway track, that definitely is easier to do at a summit or somewhere where you have recorded sessions where you can go
Mhm.
back.
Mm.
So obviously, it's some SQL Saturday where they're not recorded. Like you said, maybe it's more, hey, let's meet at lunch. Where are you sitting? Hey, let's meet afterwards. Let me get your
Yep.
contact info. I still want to attend this session that's not recorded.
And learn how to use LinkedIn to get your QR scan code up quickly, right? Because that
Yes.
way you could
Yes.
connect very quickly. Once I figured that out, then it wasn't as awkward, right? So, but I say let's get into the topic.
All right, good call. Thanks, Kevin, for bringing us back in. We
do
can
we have
always
any
count on you.
do we have any rules we want followed today, or
No rules. Nah, you know what?
thinking
No
rule?
rules today.
No rules
It's no
today. Do what
rules
you
Friday.
want.
But seriously, it's not a rule. But if you have a question that you want to like inject in and you want to make sure we don't miss it, please prefix your question with a Q colon. That really does help it like stand out, because we love the banter. That back and forth really does help feed the live streams or feed the like YouTube and X and Rumble, all of those like interactions wherever you're coming at us from. It really helps, pull this up in the search engine. I'm going to just do a quick plug. If you want early access to not live streams, obviously, but videos, you can become a member for as low as $5 a month. You'll get early access to all of the videos that I'm putting out. In fact, you'll get immediate access to all the videos that I put out. So feel free to join that. But other than that, no rules. Let's get into it. Jason, what are we here talking about?
So we're here to talk about Semantic Link and then the extension of that, Semantic Link Labs. To me, they kind of go hand in hand.
Well, what the heck is Semantic Link?
That's what we're here to talk about. I do have a couple of slides that
All right. Let me
will
pull that up.
show a little bit. So Semantic Link, this is what Microsoft's description was, at least when I created this slide. Semantic Link is a feature that allows you to establish a connection between semantic models and Synapse Data Science and Microsoft Fabric. Like, okay, what does that mean? So basically, it's all the things. So semantic models, reports, measures, and much more. The Synapse data science part, that's where we actually get to interact and use this data and investigate in a Fabric notebook. So Apache Spark with Python and more. So basically with Semantic Link, I can go into my Fabric environment, look at my Power BI artifacts, and bring those back into a notebook and then use them how I would normally use things in a notebook. And what gets a little confusing is we talk about Semantic Link or Semantic Link Labs, it's because there's two links. And yes, I grew up playing Zelda. So every time I see Link, I think a link to the past. One of my sessions was a link to the future. But every time I see the word link, it makes me think Zelda. Both of these are only available in Microsoft Fabric. Semantic Link is basically the base, the driver, the API is how I look at it. And it's included in the default runtime for the current version of Spark. So if you're using the current version, like Spark 3.5, you don't even have to install anything. It's there by default, which right away says how kind of important Microsoft thinks this is, that it's included by default. You no longer have to install it. Semantic Link Labs, and this is where it got confusing for me, because I remember I kept looking up Semantic Link, I look at the documentation, and that's not really what drew me in. It wasn't until I discovered Semantic Link Labs that I was like, oh, this is for me. This is what I want to do. So Kurt put it best when he called it the expansion pack. Again, going back to that gaming metaphor, it uses Semantic Link. If you look at the Semantic Link Labs code, right away you'll see an import senpai.fabric as fabric. That is using Semantic Link. So it's built on top. It's open source. It has a GitHub repository. It's under active development. You can, if you have an issue with it, you can post the issue. There's discussions. Michael Kowalski is the main kind of developer behind Semantic Link Labs. Very responsive, very quick to make bug fixes, put out new versions.
Hang on one
This is
second.
exciting to me. Yes.
Let's talk more about Michael Kowalski. Do you know? Does everyone know who Michael Kowalski is? Or do you want to give him an introduction there, Jason?
Do an introduction.
I mean, I'm not the expert on him, but where I discovered him was with his blog, and he created a project called Model Auto Build, where you could take tabular editor, some C#, and take a Excel document that had all your metadata in it, all your name of your columns and measures. And instead of opening up Visual Studio, because I started with Analysis Services Tabular, instead of opening up Visual Studio and building your model, I could use Model Auto Build and actually create my model from that Excel document, tabular editor, C# script, create my model and deploy it to Analysis Services. So that's where I first discovered him and his projects. And that was, I love Model Auto Build.
Yeah, for to bring everyone up to speed on Michael Kowalski, he is the genius engineer who helped design and build the entire data ecosystem at Microsoft. So it's probably the largest implementation of Power BI, semantic models, and an Azure business intelligence solution on the planet. He did that through some incredible engineering that's been heavily blogged about on his blog Elegant BI. And he is like a lot of that work is what ended up leading to significant advances broadly across everything that's fabric. So I think a lot of that work was contributed to like why we have tabular editor. A lot of that work is contributed to why we have composite models, why we have fabric to begin with, right? So Michael Kowalski has like an integral part of the fabric ecosystem, and the work he's doing is just fantastic. And this is a key component in there because the need and the desire came like, hey, we need to have more control over what's going on inside of our semantic models. That's above and beyond just what we currently do with it, which is, oh, we refresh it en masse. Like, no, we need to have like targeted partition refreshes. We need to have individual table refreshes. We want to do it programmatically through our ETL processes, right? Like I want to load a table, and at the end of that, I want to refresh an individual table, or I update a partition and I want to update that partition in the model, or I update a series of partitions. I want to dynamically update partitions, right? Like all of this stem from Microsoft eating their own dog food and having to solve their own problems. So he like So I call it out. Like, this is the guy who's engineered the solution to this nth degree, and he's sorting it out and figuring out these challenges, and he is blazing the way for all of us to follow along in our wake. And I'm so excited that this is making huge progress. Now we get to see how we can leverage this and just do this without having to do that engineering ourselves.
Yep. And as Fernando points out, the father of best practice analyzer.
Yes. Yep.
So
to bring it all together too, I told you I use model auto build. In fact, my data model TARDIS was built using that. And then after it was built, then I transitioned to just using tabular editor. But in Semantic Link Labs, there is some skeleton code. There is the start of code for Model Auto Build. And I actually discovered it early on and was like, oh my gosh, I got to try this. And it's like, it's not really ready. It's got some print statements. You can tell the focus switch from this thing that only certain people would use to more heavily used features and things that really needed more development, whereas Model Auto Build's kind of on the back burner. But that's what got me, okay, I got to use this. And I actually tried it, and I would like to actually add to the code and see if I can, help develop it and contribute to it. But so again, Semantic Link.
Wait. You're kind of jumping over that real quick. You could contribute to this code?
It's open source.
And
submit PRs.
So
pull requests.
It's over on GitHub then, right?
Correct.
Chris, let me send you that. There should be a link, Chris, if you could put that out on the different streams.
Where did you put the link?
I put it in the private chat to you.
You put it in the private chat? I don't see it. I'm just kidding with you.
But yeah, so all these things that you're talking about, right? You could help contribute to it. You could look through it and find different things. The responsiveness of putting an issue out there, the communication and everything is all happening on that link that Chris just put out. And what I can't remember, Jason, was it you I was talking to or somebody else that was saying, they thought of something that they needed in Semantic Link Labs. They put it out there as an issue, and Michael responded within like a day, and then like the next day had it kind of built into the code. So that's how quickly he's very dedicated to this. So anyways, back to you, Jason.
Yeah, and I have submitted issues that I'm seeing, and it is hard because you're like, is this an issue? Is it not?
Mm-hmm.
But you can always just put it out there or put it as a question. And then, yes, he's very active in resolving things. And in fact, to me, he was one of the early GitHub people. That's where Model Auto Build was. And there was a couple of times I submitted issues there.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's go to the future with Semantic Link Labs. So Semantic Link Labs, this is how I pictured it. We have Microsoft Fabric. We have all these, our Power BI semantic models, reports. With Semantic Link, I don't want to understate, Semantic Link by itself is amazing. You can list tables and workspaces and models and reports. And it reminds me of when I was a database administrator. So I started learning PowerShell. And with PowerShell, this is how I felt in the beginning that, I can list my databases. I can list, the tables. But it really wasn't till they came out with DBA tools that kind of took those basic pieces and said, here's one function that will completely migrate your environment to a new environment. That's how it is for Semantic Link Labs. All of a sudden, I can run code that migrates my model to Direct Lake. I can run Best Practice Analyzer. I can manage my reports, view broken reports, and rebind reports. So again, Semantic Link, amazing. It does all these things, but Semantic Link Labs allows you to do the heavy lifting with maybe just one function. That's all it takes.
I mean, this is just so flippin'.
Shut up and
And how much do we have to pay for this Semantic Link Labs?
It's free.
Well, so they've already taken my money, so that's great.
Now, again, you do have to be using Fabric.
Yeah.
Okay.
As Fernando pointed out, that I thought that was a great analogy. I never thought about it like that. Where anybody that knows,
Chewy.
remember, Chewy. I thought I said Chewy, didn't I?
You said Fernando.
Oh yeah, Chewy. Sorry, Chewy. As he pointed out, the DBA tools. Yeah, I kind of had the same epiphanies with that, and then I never related that to this, but it is the same thing. All right, so we're going to get into the demos now.
Correct. Because that's what everyone's here for, is to
That's
actually
right.
see it.
Well, actually,
It's not for my bad slides.
there you go.
They're not bad slides.
So like I said, Semantic Link, again, just Semantic Link, is installed by default. So as long as you're using Spark 3.4 and above, it's in the default. So I'm using Spark 3.5. It's already there. I'm the type of person, though, that I'm like, is it really installed? So I can actually go down and show all the packages that are installed currently in this environment with this command, pip freeze. That will show me everything. I can also just show if it's installed by running the show semantic link SymPy, and that will show if it's installed and what version I'm on. That's running right now. I'll go back up real quick. So if I want the newest version. I know Semantic Link came out with a new feature. I really need to use it. I can install with the -U and it will make sure it's installed. And if it's installed, it will get me the latest version. So I did my show Semantic Link SymPy, and I'm on version 8.0. I think they're up to 8.3. So this is fine for what I'm doing. There's nothing in 8.3. But if I'm like, okay, I want to go ahead and update it, I can. Once I do that, again, we're starting to use Python to interact with my environment. I'm going to go import my necessary modules. So bring them in, alias them to more friendly names so I don't have to type out sympy.fabric every time. That's now done. Now we get to the examples. So one of the first things I want to do is just list my semantic models. Again, you'll notice with a lot of the APIs that they're still called data sets. That's just something we have to live with.
I'd rather type data sets than semantic models.
True. So there
Shut up. Look at that.
And one thing I want to point out is, so I'm able to, because of how I displayed this, I can go ahead and download this as a CSV, JSON, XML. We'll get to this later, but also this code, we're in a notebook. We can automate notebooks. We can take this code and say, okay, I want this to run every day, and then save this CSV to my lake house. And then something else is going to pick it up. Again, we're just using Semantic Link. We haven't even got into Semantic Link Labs yet.
Wow.
One thing to realize,
is that all of the data sets that you have access to, or what credentials is this running at? What is it, just in one workspace? What are we looking at there?
So that's as me in this workspace, because it's using my security.
Okay.
And it's in this workspace that I'm in. And then a lot of that can be changed, and we'll go through that further on, where we can actually specify. Oh, no. Where we can actually specify, what workspace, what data set, what report. And one thing to realize is when you run this, I'm actually running this code, but I'm assigning it to a variable, semantic models. And that's normally going to be some form of a data frame. they have what's called a fabric data frame, and it's basically a Panda data frame, but also metadata. So one thing about this, the more you do it, the more you're going to learn Python, and the more you will benefit from learning to work with data frames, learning to work with Panda data frames, and how to kind of manipulate that the way you want. So I can even see right here, if I want to say, hey, what data frame was or what type of object was returned, I can see it's a Panda data frame. The nice thing is there are so many people and so much documentation and books written about pandas and working with data frames that it's not something that only Semantic Link is using. It is the way people do data science in the notebook. Now, this one I really love. This is one of the ones that kind of hooked me, is the fact that I can look at this one workspace and this one data set or semantical, and it will visualize the relationships that are there.
What? Look at that. It's kind
So
of
that
drawn
was the
nicely
one,
too.
yeah. So that was the one that I was like, ooh, this is neat. And then you can start to get into things. Again, we're in Semantic Link where I want to look at the model dependencies. So what does this model depend on in the product table? So I'm only looking at product. And this can be useful. I mean, you can see that this depends on subcategory code, which depends on category code.
Okay, when we say depends on, it's what it has dependencies on within the model.
Correct.
Okay, so
Wow.
And
it's
this is
not like
all in the product table.
okay, but it's not looking to see like that it has a linkage to a warehouse or a lake house or something like that.
Correct.
The lineage to that. This is all within the model, but that's cool.
Correct.
Okay.
This isn't viewing the lineage.
Okay.
And then this is where we can actually save the semantic models to CSV. So it's what I did above. The only difference is now I'm doing some, Python pandas magic to actually save out to a CSV, because I just have a data frame, and one of the methods of that data frame is to save to CSV. So I'm just saving it out to my lake house. And then again, someone can look at that, a process can pick that up, I could save it somewhere else.
Nice.
And then I can go ahead and just read that file just like I would with pandas normally, and actually read it from the lake house. Again, this is where the benefit of learning a little Python, a little bit of working with data frames comes into play. And then I'm going to list tables. I put this little note here. Currently, it's not displaying the auto date tables, which are hidden, but it's not showing them. So that's something I'm like, okay, I need to investigate this later. Maybe it's not supposed to. Maybe they're marked as system, but for whatever reason, it's not. But if I create my own hidden date table, it will find it.
Okay, interesting. So like right now you couldn't use it to go through models and find anybody that has auto date turned on because it doesn't show up anywhere.
It doesn't with this function in Semantic Link.
Okay.
Let's see, I think with Semantic Link Labs, we get a lot more.
Okay. Yeah, I'm even confusing myself. We're still in the Semantic Link part of this, not even up to the labs part yet.
Correct.
Okay.
And then you can list columns. And it is funny because even these functions are changing, because list tables has an option where you can list columns, but it's being deprecated. So they want you to use the separate function. Again, probably going to the programmer thing of one function, one purpose, why list tables and have a parameter for columns. So, and again, I can still go ahead and download this. I can do whatever I want with this data. Once I have it in a data frame, I can filter it down. I can only look at certain things. I mean, really from that point, once it returns it to that data frame, it's up to you how you actually want to return it.
You could load it into a lake house that's specifically for like tracking this, couldn't you?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so again, this is going
This is going to be Chris's favorite one right here.
So I know my audience. So I created some calculated columns, age +1, age +2. And again, when I run this originally, I'm just returning all columns, but I'm now taking that data frame and actually filtering it down to just calculated columns. So that way I can see, oh, okay, there's this many calculated columns. Again, list
Good, then we can
measures.
eliminate those. That's
Right.
fantastic.
Exactly. And again, people ask sometimes like, well, how do I get the code for all the measures in this model and all the models? Well, here's one way you can do it. And again, I could save it to a CSV. This one, again, is cool because remember, we're not in Power BI. We're not in, a Power BI report. We're not opening DAX Studio. We're in a notebook in Fabric, and I can run actual DAX code against my model and have it return into a data frame.
That's cool.
Things like this, I think, are going to be big with the data science because the data scientists can return this data, and then maybe now they're going to merge it with some other data they have.
Mm-hmm.
We have this model, it has everything we need, it's got the measures and everything. They can do all their calculations, return that data, but then now merge it with other data they have. So this last thing I'm going to cover
I'm going to say
is, oh yeah,
that's just hold on, we're gonna like pivot over 1 second here. Back to the whole like sharing a data scientist. Data science can run that against your model. Please be aware, if through Senpai a data scientist says, give me the data in a table, that's going to use Python and Spark to run against the Delta files that are in the back end of the table. So that's going to be very lightweight, no load on your semantic models that are in production. The second they come in and they execute a DAX statement and whatever they're extracting as part of that statement, that compute does run against that central model. So, yeah, and central model processing is 16 to 32 times more expensive than than CUs for just Python against the Lakehouse files, right? The Delta files. So be very cautious if you're doing that. If a data scientist says, give me all of the data out of a model and scripts out every column in every table and every measure on that, they can and will destroy your entire capacity attempting to return those values. So anyone who's looking to do that, you have to be exorbitantly careful there because there are absolutely no guardrails around that. And ask me how I know. I don't know of enterprise models that have been completely leveled and floored and taken offline while a notebook runs and operates out there. I don't know of any of those.
It's never happened.
Completely made up thing that I've not had to personally troubleshoot and
the
explain to executives why all reporting is for the enterprise model is down.
Is down. Why the capacity is frozen.
Yes.
that is good to know.
Yep. So table's fine. It's when you get to a measure that it has to use the tabular engine to generate that stuff. So get the proper grain, get whatever like fields that are in your fact table or whatever like fields that are like the key fields in order to like mash it up, get that data into a data frame and then use that data frame to join to other tables. That is the proper pattern. Don't attempt to put it all into one data frame. You'll you blow everything up. So sorry,
So,
keep going.
oh, no.
You're good here.
So one thing I just want to add, this is kind of a quick thing, and maybe this is a little more personal, is pandas is the data frame that it returns, and there is another type of data frame called polars. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install polars. Again, it's just a Python package. It's free. It's a different way of doing the data frame. A lot of people find the syntax easier. It doesn't rely on indexes. It's more, I don't want to say modern, but it's supposed to have an easier syntax. Another benefit is if you really start doing big data sets, it relies on Apache Arrow, and so it can performance-wise be better. I'm trying to learn it because I think the syntax would be easier. And so all I want to point out is if you are using polars or you want to try polars, all you have to do is install polars. I'm going to go ahead and import my simpy.fabric as fabric, which is just a semantic link, just because I installed a package after I did it before. And then all I'm doing in this code is I'm running my normal semantic link, but I'm returning this pandas data frame like normal, but then I just convert it from pandas to polars. So this code actually converts that data frame from pandas to polar. So now I have a polars data frame. So if that's what I'm more comfortable with, from now on, I could do everything that I know how to do in polars. Again, more showing how cool the notebook is and the fact that once you get stuff in a data frame, it unleashes what you're good at and what you know. And it, looking into something like polars, if the syntax is easier, could be beneficial. But now comes the exciting part. We've seen normal semantic link, again, amazing, but I think it's not till you get to semantic link labs that you see kind of the big lifts, the things, the wow moments, and what it's able to do. So at semantic link labs, it is not just installed by default in the environment. So I do have to install it. Another option while this is installing that we can talk about is I also can create an environment and attach or install semantic link labs to it. I could install polars. I could create my environment so it already has these packages in it. And then I would just either switch to that environment here, where this already has my semantic link labs, or at the workspace level, I can attach that environment to the workspace.
Wow. Wow.
I have raised an issue with Michael where if I use an environment, I'm not seeing it update all the dependencies, because when I install Semantic Link Labs, it has to go through and install the dependencies. And for instance, one of them, it will upgrade your semantic link to the newest version 8.3, because that's one of the dependencies that this package has. So if I do that in an environment, I'm not seeing that happen. So I'm kind of waiting to find out what they say there. So now I have Semantic Link Labs installed.
Is that error really an error, or was it just something that you kind of, there was a red error message there?
Oh,
like we don't have to worry about that, right?
Correct. And you can even hide this output, but this is just all the log for it installing it. And that, and then some of it will say it's deprecated, or, the fact that there's a new release.
Yeah, but it, like I said, you continue to move on. It doesn't mean that you're blocked and you won't be able to do what you're showing here. So
correct, and that's totally different than the environment issue I brought up.
Okay.
So by running this command, I can actually verify the version of Semantic Link that's installed. So it did upgrade it to 8.3. And now Semantic Link Labs is 8.9, which was just released like a day or two ago.
Wow.
Again, I want to go ahead and import those modules into my notebook. And I will say, and we'll get to this in a second, first of all, there's documentation on the Semantic Link Labs website that has how you import the modules. So this code here. And then what's really meta, and I love, one of the things they have is you're using Semantic Link Labs to actually go and download these helper notebooks that they've created. So they've created helper notebooks that help you do best practice analyzer, capacity migration, migrate to direct lake, and then you can go in and edit it and make it the way you want.
What is capacity migration?
To migrate from premium to fabric.
Shut the front door.
Mm.
So could I also use it to migrate from trial to a capacity?
If I'm correct, yes. I think that's one of the things.
Wow.
Now that does have a little more setup, and that definitely would be a more involved demo because of the fact that you have to set up stuff on the Azure side.
Mm-hmm.
But think about that, the fact that you actually could automate doing migrations of capacity.
That's amazing.
So
amazing.
if I go to my workspace, it downloaded these notebooks. I moved them into a folder called Helper Notebooks. One thing to be aware of, even though it's in a folder, and Kevin's probably aware of this, it doesn't recognize that they're in a folder. So it will see that they're in this location and keep overwriting these, even though they're in a folder.
Yeah, folders are really interesting animals in the workspace right now. But
Yes, so there's no option to save it in a folder. And I may think, hey, I don't have these notebooks. I don't see them outside the folder. They're not here. They're not in the main folder, but they're really here, and it will just keep overwriting that location. So just something to be aware of. But this function right here is from Semantic Link Labs. So he wrote a function that will import notebooks from the web. And then he uses it to get the notebooks from his GitHub or from the Semantic Link Labs GitHub. So that to me was very meta. And then now you have all these notebooks, and most of the demos I'm doing are kind of a combination of some of those helper notebooks and then just modified to what I want to do. So don't think I'm writing all this by scratch.
Hey, question, Jason. Is there a minimum size capacity for this to run on? Like if I've got an F2 that I'm using for all my stuff, will that be sufficient?
Obviously, like almost what you pointed out earlier, I mean, an F2 is what I normally use for demos. And so I've run it on an F2, but obviously just depending on what you're doing, how much you're doing, that's what's going to determine.
I mean, this is just fantastic. No, I think we've got
see
about
the next cell.
What's that? Yeah,
dependencies of measures. What's that?
So this actually does a little measure tree. And I will say, I know we're getting short on time, and maybe certain things I could have went faster on.
No, we're fine.
But
we got a few minutes.
It really is. There's so much to it, and I think you have to start with Semantic Link, and then once you get to labs, just start to show how much is there.
And then, like you said, use those helper notebooks to kind of get yourself going with and pull out these snippets that you want. But
Correct. So this shows sales amount depends on the sales table, quantity and unit price columns.
Cool.
And then this one I owe to Nicola. He showed this. I wasn't quite aware of this. You can actually take your semantic model and it will translate it into different languages. So this one's Spanish and Italian.
Yeah, I think
I was like, oh, good.
No, good. No, you go. Because you're headed right down the same point I was. Go ahead.
I was like, how does this work? So remember, this is open source. So I went to the code and it looks like it calls Synapse machine learning services, but it translates all the columns. And again, I'm dealing with data frames. So now I get it into a document that I can download. I could have it save it to the lake house, and then I can use this to do my translations. And like I said, for this one, I did Italian and Spanish.
And what I think I've seen was somebody wrote up a way that you automatically push that right back into the model in order to help you put in support for the languages right in the model. You know?
Correct.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
So
And then
I can't
I'm going to
force
skip
everyone
ahead.
to just learn English anymore. I could just deploy multiple models for my global clients.
You can. I mean, just
cow.
because something exists doesn't mean you have to use it, right? Where are we at now? Save semantic model BIM file.
Yeah, so this will save the BIM file to your lakehouse. And then what I did with this, I immediately synced it using OneLake File Explorer to my desktop, and then I redeployed it to another environment with Tabular Editor, and then refresh that model.
Can you do a backup of the model?
I mean, that's the BIM file. So if you're talking about the metadata and being able to,
the actual
recreate
data.
the model, there is some helper files for backup that I would have to check where they're at on that.
And that's fair enough, because like one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that those in-memory data models can be backed up into an ADLS-G2 account, and then you can redeploy that to another space or even overlay your model. So it's entirely possible to back up your data, back up your code, apply your code changes, run your refresh, do your integration tests, and if you fail, to fall back to the code and the data without having to do a refresh. So it's possible to script all that stuff out. So if you have like a very large model that has long times running and loading, and you've had to go to like weird, like back to weird weekend based deployments to avoid like issues and refreshes, that's something you can definitely build into your pipeline. So
nice.
All right.
What report are we looking at now?
Yeah.
So because of time, I can go through, there's these different steps down here for best practice analyzer. And basically I'll just go through the steps without running it. So we can collect the stats for all the semantic models within, let's say, a single workspace. And this is configurable. You could do it for all workspaces. You can do it for a list. I just wanted to do it for a single workspace. And then it will actually create a direct lake semantic model for you based on this information. And then it will create a report for you that's better than probably reports I can create off of that semantic model that's in direct link.
So like one of the big questions would be like all this code that you're showing, are you going to share this? But what I think you got this from is all those helper notebooks, right?
Correct. So the helper notebook. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so if somebody wants to do this themselves, that's all there out of those in those helper notebooks. They don't need the code Jason's showing today. I mean, you've pulled it out
Correct.
from that, right? But cool.
Correct. Like this would be best practice analyzer
Mhm.
helper notebook. Obviously the stuff on Semantic Link, which was kind of the basic stuff, there is no helper notebooks
Yeah.
for that because that's just Semantic Link.
But their documentation helps you get going with all of that and everything, right?
Correct. And most people, you're just going to skip Semantic Link. You're
Mhm.
going to go directly to Semantic Link Labs. I mean, that's
Wow.
really where you're ending up. So I have this report. Again, it's a semantic model in Direct Lake, and it shows me the best practices, the violations, and I can do the normal categories and severity. One of the things is filter column values with proper syntax. This is one I always include because this will slow down your DAX. You can do where it will find calculated columns. Avoid using calculated columns right there. And
You're
so these
speaking
are
my
all
love
the
language now.
models.
And then this all gets backed by the capacity, so it can handle millions of rows of violations like are in my models, right?
Correct.
All right.
And you can decide, it appends the data.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, we need to like start to wrap it up here. So, Jason, if you were going to give people one thing, like, hey, go do X, what would that X be?
I would say start with the Semantic Link Labs website
Okay.
and then find what problem you're trying to solve or what thing interests you. And then see if there's a helper notebook for that. Like you said, if you're you're right in the middle of talking about migrating capacities, get that helper notebook and download it. Or use the code that they provide on the website to download all the helper notebooks. If you're more interested in, no, we need to start with best practices, then look at best practice analyzer helper notebook.
Mm-hmm.
Start with something you're trying to solve or something you want to learn more about.
That's fantastic advice,
Perfect.
Jason.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Uh, Thank you guys all. Kevin for joining us every week, and thank you guys all for tuning in for this. I hope you found this one useful. Unfortunately, I've got a hard stop. So,
Yep.
you guys all have the absolute best weekend ever. Check out Jason's blog over at thedaxshepherd.com. Check out Semantic Links. Let's get up and running with this. And Kevin, you're going to be in Houston tomorrow?
I'll be in Houston, so come join me in Houston. I can't wait. So.
Awesome. Jason, avoid FOMO. Don't go on social media. Watch, just tune it out. Where are you speaking next, Jason?
I don't know at this point.
Okay. Well, we'll watch you. We'll follow you on LinkedIn and X. Everyone have the best weekend ever. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Oh my gosh, it's like I've never done this before. Where's my outro video?
Button number 3.
There you go. Baker Tilly Digital combines strategic industry insight and advanced technical expertise to uncover and solve your digital transformation challenges. If you're interested in learning more, check out our website at bakertilly.com/digital.